everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar. We are excited to bring you a country update on Taiwan and Japan today with some fantastic guest speakers. We are excited. My name is Kana Kumoshita of Academy, and I will be your facilitator today. I'm honored to have recently joined the ATMA Advisory Board, and I'm looking forward to guiding you through this session. Okay, here is today's agenda and our wonderful guest speakers. We will be hearing from our guest speakers about the key trends driving global mobility. Throughout the webinar, feel free to send your questions via chat at any time. We will do our best to answer as many as questions at the end of our session today. So please don't hesitate to ask anything you'd like to ask for our speakers. Before we dive into the main content, I'd like to take a brief moment to introduce ATMA, the organization hosting today's webinar. ATMA, which stands for the Asia Talent Mobility Alliance, is an organization dedicated to supporting and connecting professionals in the global mobility and HR industries across Asia. The vision of ATMA is to enhance the innovation and development of the talent mobility industry of Asia. ATMA has now entered its second year. As we continue to grow our community, we're excited to welcome more members, including all of you listening today. We truly believe that your participation will be invaluable as we move forward. ATMA regularly provides webinars like today and valuable information to the industry professionals, offering a space of community building and knowledge sharing. We look forward to growing together with all of you through these ongoing efforts. Now, big thank you for the foundation partners, which is Global, ECA International, Little Network Asia, and Little Japan. And here, please go to the next slide. Yes, here is the foundation founding members of ATMA. Now, we are ready to begin the main part of today's webinar. We'll start with a topic that many of you are very interested in, immigration. I'd like to introduce our expert on visas and immigration, Mr. Nakai from Nakai Immigration Service. Nakai-san, please share your insights.
Thank you very much, Kana-san. So I'd like to start the update information from the integration of resident card and my number card. Now, all of you can look at the page so that this is the image of new card available at MOJ, Ministry of Justice site. So everyone can check it. So that center card, I think foreign residents know, everybody has, this is current resident card, and right side, this is current my number card. Either Japanese and foreign residents can have it, not mandatory, but option to have this card. And by next year, June, the card below will be issued by Immigration Bureau. The name is specific resident card, but function is almost same as my number card, and you can find that this design itself is my number card. But in the front side, there is some information from resident card. One is the nationality and status of residence, expiry date, and workable or not, and whether or not they have a permission, part-time work permission. So this looking my number card, but this card holder can show it as a resident card to employer. He can work or when it will be expired. But we call not my number card. So I'd like to demonstrate the short history of my number card and future is we already have my number card functioning health insurance card as well. And current health insurance paper card will never available from next year, December. So we use only my number card as health insurance coverage when we see doctor. And in addition, we will have my number card combined with driving license soon too. So in future, the my number card functioning insurance, health insurance card and driving license as well as resident card. But I guess why we call this special resident card, not my number card, is resident card every foreigner need to carry all the time, but my number card does not require such obligation. In my understanding, this is the point. If we call my number card functioning resident card, all the foreigner need to carry my number card every time. That's my understanding. Okay, can you go forward to next topic? Okay. So speeding up immigration screening for semiconductor-related workers. So this also announced June this year. So now, thanks to TSMC and Taiwan people, the Fukuoka prefecture is enjoying boom for construction or hiring new workers, either Japanese or foreign workers. So now the prefecture was designated as special zone and can have a relaxation of some administrative procedure. So once the company who hire foreign worker is recognized as by prefecture, the screening period in the immigration will be 1 month, shortened 1 month from ordinary 3 months. That saying by the government. However, I don't think it will be very useful because currently, even in the Tokyo immigration, we can receive certificate of eligibility, COE, only 3 weeks examination. So this may be useful for small or just established company in Kumamoto. And detail is not yet disclosed. I checked Kumamoto prefecture as well, but I can't get any detailed information. And next one, this also special zone treatment. As Prime Minister Kishida, outgoing Prime Minister soon, announced September 20 last year, we will be the financial center in the world or something like that. And just June this year, the detailed plan was announced by FSA, Financial Services Agencies, as special asset management zones in 4 areas: Fukuoka Prefecture and City together, Osaka City and Prefecture jointly, Tokyo and Hokkaido and Sapporo together. So each municipality has unique idea, but what will be realized is some so I can say only deregulation or support from the local government will be some English translation or forming articles of association when establishing company by supporting by the local government or opening a bank account, also supporting by local government in English. And so many those local government or branch of central government administrative procedure can be done in English. But this also, the detail is not yet disclosed and not yet studied. Thank you so much. So I'll take question in the later. Thank you.
Thank you, Nakai-san. I hope everything will be disclosed very soon. Now, moving on, we will hear about Taiwan's visa and immigration situation from Douglas, who has joined us from Cultural Awareness International, Inc. Douglas actually will be covering all aspects of Taiwan today. So as a Taiwan expert, we are excited to hear from you, Douglas. Over to you.
Thank you, Kana-san, and good afternoon from Taiwan to all the ATMA participants. I want to start with a general overview of just the current situation as exists. I think Taiwan seems to see a lot of growth across many areas that are related to international talent mobility and employment. We're finding that most of those are project-based, and they're actually mostly located outside of Taipei, which, as I think you all know, is in northern Taiwan, and primarily happening in central and southern Taiwan. With these projects, there's a great demand for people, particularly in areas like semiconductors and other high-tech related industries, as well as other industries such as offshore wind energy. And I think there's kind of a convergence of different influences here between these new projects and the demand for foreign talent. And then, of course, Taiwan has its own domestic challenges, such as falling birth rate, which has led the government to really emphasize across the board that it wants to open up to foreign talent. And this ranges from the high-end skilled engineers and executives all the way down to foreign contract workers. Just to give you an example, Taiwan recently signed an MOU with the Indian government to begin testing the arrival of Indian foreign contract workers for the very first time to join the over 800,000 foreign contract workers from other mostly Southeast Asian nations. Taiwan has also announced that it wants to boost its skilled employment in Taiwan by hundreds of thousands over the next decade or two. So they're looking for ways to make Taiwan more attractive and to allure or bring in this foreign talent. One area that they're already focusing on, and they've just recently announced, is as part of their effort to make Taiwan, to boost the number of international students at Taiwanese universities, they've now made it possible for those students to work in Taiwan and also encourage them to stay and continue working and seek employment in Taiwan after they graduate. As part of these efforts, I wouldn't say there's been any huge changes to the immigration and visa regulations over the last year or two. However, we are seeing special attention and interest in particular areas. So in addition to the traditional Alien Resident Certificate, or ARC, and Alien Permanent Resident Certificate that most foreigners get when they come here, there's been significant growth in recipients of the Employment Gold Card, which is a special program in existence since 2018-2019. Currently, the number of holders of these gold employment cards is around 10,000 people. And these are special because they do not rely on specific work permits that are issued by specific companies. Rather, they're favored by foreign contractors and consultants, and they don't depend on any company, meaning that you can work pretty much wherever you want. They're very popular with people in the offshore wind energy sector, for example. Companies don't necessarily like them because that means their employees can go wherever they want. They don't have to, they're not reliant on that particular company, but they're very popular with independent employees. They do offer specific tax benefits to the holders, and applicants can apply on the basis of expertise and experience within 10 specific employment or industry categories, such as, for example, education, finance, architecture, culture and arts, law, sports, and national defense. Holders are able to stay in Taiwan for up to 5 years, and they have the option of applying for a permanent resident certificate after only 3 years, which is actually very preferential treatment. We've also seen growth in other initiatives such as the Special Professional Work Permit, which has similar benefits to the Gold Employment Card with such as tax benefits, but it seems to be a little bit less subjective during the approval process. It tends to be issued to high-level foreign executives. And then finally, we have the Plum Blossom Card, which is basically a committee-approved, fairly subjective card that is given out to foreigners that are considered to have made special contributions to Taiwan. And the holders of that card are not quite as many as the other cards. Incidentally, I want to add that there's been a much publicized petition that is currently circulating to the Taiwanese government that is asking the government here to drop its requirement that foreigners seeking Taiwan citizenship need to first revoke their native citizenship. And so that is something that we're going to be watching very closely to see if this happens or not, if the government agrees to do that. And currently the petition is focused on alien permanent residence certificate holders or permanent residents, foreign permanent residents of Taiwan. As always, we remind people, expats that are coming to Taiwan, that the standard work permit processing time is roughly around 7 to 8 weeks. And we advise people to pay special attention to early preparation of required documentation, foreign documentation, such as degrees, merit certificates, birth and marriage certificates, because notarizing these and certifying these can be a time-consuming process. So thank you very much.
Thank you for interesting insights, Douglas. Next, we have an update on housing from Ms. Chiba of Mori Living, a leading developer for expats housing in Japan. But before we hear from her, I'd like to briefly touch on a general housing market situation. The real estate market in Tokyo is seeing more availability, mainly due to new developments, such as the expansion of the Hills series, thank you to Mori Building. However, with the strong dollar, budget set in USD can lead to issues if the yen gets stronger, as budget may vary during the search. We recommend setting budgets in Japanese yen to avoid this kind of problem. Additionally, there is a lack of transparency in the application process, with owners having significant control over the tenant selection, often through the processes like sealed bids. So now let's hear more detailed insights. So Ms. Chiba focus on Mori Building. Chiba-san, go back to you.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to introduce some trends we're seeing in Tokyo using the data from Mori Living. A while ago, most of central Tokyo residences were leased by non-Japanese. As you can see, 70% are leased by Japanese residents now. And especially for the long-term unfurnished apartments, the percentage becomes 80%. Before, buying a home was mainstream, but now leasing has become an option. Not just the popularity, but the Japanese tend to lease for a longer period, which makes the vacancy limited at times and difficult for expats to find their home in Tokyo. The graph below shows the nationalities of the residences. Americans have always been a major share of our residents, but currently we are seeing people from Asian countries such as China, Hong Kong, Korea, Taiwan, which has been a new trend. Not only people working for global companies, but there are people trying to open up a new business or have even started, as well as coming to study the language or culture, or for even for long vacations. Having more people finding Japan attractive to work and live is an honor, but there are some challenges we're facing. We'll see in the next page. I will be introducing 3 points today. Generally, when leasing a property, there is a screening process required for the lessee and the guarantor. The lessee and the guarantor can be a corporate registered contract in Japan or an individual contract. But the deposit or lump sum payment may seem enough for the guarantee, but asking for a screening document is very common. By knowing the customer, the quality of residents are kept and will maintain a high level management and a comfortable stay. When finding difficulty for a guarantor, guarantee companies are available, but English-oriented companies are limited, and it can be better to confirm before applying to one. Related to above is an emergency contact person that will be required. If it is corporate contract, the HR in Tokyo is fine, but for individuals, this sometimes can be an issue. If there's no one in Japan, there are cases where overseas contacts can be accepted, so please discuss with in a situation such. So most of the properties are providing English guidelines or have English-speaking staff at the front desk. But now that more Asians are coming, there are cases where they only speak Chinese or Korean. This may lead to lack of communication and become a frustration for both parties. Also, the main concern is that in case of emergency, most properties will only make announcements in Japanese and English, and this may make ensuring safety difficult. Slowly, some properties are providing guidelines in multiple languages, but still will take time from now. Could we go to the next page, please? Here, the Global Power City Index evaluates and ranks the major cities of the world according to their magnetism or their comprehensive power to attract people, capital, and enterprise from around the world. Tokyo, which has closely trailed by Paris since last year, maintained its position in the comprehensive ranking by a narrow margin. To make Tokyo an attractive city, urban redevelopment properties are being built. Here's a newest project called Azabudai Hills shown here as an example. The project brings not just residential, including service apartments, but dining, international schools, clinics, workplaces, recreational and relaxational diversity closer to turn the entire city into an unbeatable comfort, which makes it a special area for the expat community. Along with the multi-layered disaster preparedness and crime prevention systems in place, it may protect you from things that you have not even been aware of. These projects are sure to be one of the reliable homes in Tokyo for the expat community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiba-san. Now let's move to the explore the situation in Taiwan. Over to you, Douglas.
Thank you, Kana. I just want to start by saying that generally speaking, prices in the rental market for the mid to high range housing that is favored typically by expatriates continues to grow about 10% per year annually in terms of rent prices, according to most relocation agents I've talked to. Just for the sake of definition as a reference, and all these figures that I'm giving are in US dollars, but high-end rentals, was quite a big range between northern Taiwan, Greater Taipei, and central Taiwan, which would be Taichung or the Greater Taichung area, and then southern Taiwan, which would be Tainan and Kaohsiung. High-end rentals would be broadly categorized in the, I would say, starting in the low 6,000 US dollar range for Taipei's very popular Da'an and Xini and Tianmu districts, where many foreigners want to live. And then if you go down to Taichung, however, this drops down to the low to high 3,000 US dollar range for that city. And then if you go further south to Tainan, that drops even further to the mid 2,000 to low $3,000 range. And this is all for high-end housing. Mid-range, in the meantime, would be roughly in the low 2,000 to low 3,000 US dollar range for Taipei, and about $2,000 to about mid $2,000 for Taichung, for example. Availability for rental housing in these categories in Taipei is currently quite tight. Especially for higher end units, and that's mainly due to a lack of capacity. The same can be said for Taichung and Tainan, but for very different reasons. We're finding that in those two cities in central and southern Taiwan, this type of housing tends to be bought by a lot of high-end real estate owners and investors, and they have very little motivation for renting out these properties. We're finding that, for example, in Taipei, in the very popular Tianmu district, where a lot of foreigners like to live because it's near the Taipei American School, for example, in the high season, which would be in the summer, when a lot of people are looking for homes, rental properties can be snapped up in as quickly as 2 days. Whereas if you go to the slower winter months, that could be extended out to as long as 3 weeks. But the situation still remains. Now, if you go down south even further to the city of Kaohsiung, which is still opening up more and there's more newer projects coming into that city, we find that the housing availability situation is much better. So yeah, that's just kind of a general overview at this point.
Thank you so much for covering all over Taiwan, Douglas. Now, let's move on to the education. I will start by sharing the overview of international school landscapes in Japan. The schools are increasingly limiting third-party involvement in the application and interview process, requiring families to manage bookings and applications online themselves. And impact of COVID. The high enrollment of Japanese students during the COVID pandemic has led to reduced availability of spots in international schools. And teacher recruitment challenges. The weak Japanese yen is making it difficult for international schools in Japan to attract teachers, impacting staffing and educational quality. Douglas, now, how are things with the international schools in Taiwan?
Well, partially because of high demand, we found that what I call tier 1 schools, international schools, which would be the first choices for most expats moving to Taiwan. Availability as far as openings in those schools can be very, very challenging for expatriate families, mainly due to demand. And this is particularly true in northern and central Taiwan. So basically, Taipei and Taichung. So in Taipei, for example, tier 1 schools would mainly be considered Taipei American School, Taipei European School, and Morrison Academy, Taipei. Now in Taichung, where we have the two options are Morrison Academy's Taichung campus as well as American School in Taichung, this availability really depends on grade levels. I found, for example, recently talking to Morrison Academy Taichung, that if you want to get your child in at the kindergarten level, there's more openings, but once you miss that availability, if you go 1 or 2 grades higher, then it's pretty much booked up, or you have to be on a waiting list until something opens up, hopefully. And then if you get to high school, however, if you get up to about 9th grade, then there's a lot more spaces. So it really depends on grade levels. And that means that sometimes expatriates opt for what we might consider tier 2 schools, which are still foreign accredited schools with foreign accreditation, but they're not considered one of those top choices. And so in terms of southern Taiwan, however, the good news is that there seems to be more availability even for what we might call tier 1 schools. So in southern Taiwan, I would say that mainly currently includes Kaohsiung American School and Morrison Academy Kaohsiung. Kaohsiung American School recently, in the last few years, has actually doubled their capacity from 400 to 800 students. And we're seeing now, because of these projects that I mentioned earlier coming into Taiwan, in central and southern Taiwan, that there's actually been talk about starting an international school in Tainan, where there seems to be great demand. For now, there is no international school or dedicated international school in Tainan. So we're finding that expats there are opting often to go to Morrison Academy Kaohsiung, whose location is roughly halfway between Kaohsiung and Tainan. So for now, that's the way. And of course, there's a bus system to bring students in for those. Just a quick update on tuition. Again, Taipei would be the most expensive, and Taipei American School would be a good benchmark for high-end, which would be roughly about $31,000 per school year. That's 2 semesters. But then that drops down. If you look at Morrison Academy in Taichung, it's a little over $20,000 for high school students per school year. And then for elementary age school year students, that drops to around $17,000. So to summarize, I would say that expatriates or inbound expatriate families with children are strongly encouraged to always apply as early as possible. Don't assume that there's going to be openings for you, and always have a backup option. Always have plan B, because sometimes you just don't get into, or as soon as you want to get into, your first choice. Thank you.
That was very informative. Thank you, Douglas. Now, let me briefly introduce the cost of living for both Taiwan and Japan. Cost of living for Japan, cost of living indices for most locations going into Japan fell between 2023 to 2024. This was in spite of high rates of inflation in Japan related to the past 20 years. The cause of the fall in COL indices was the falling Japanese yen related to most other currencies. Therefore, even though prices for goods and services are rising in Japan, quotas are falling when quoted in home country, as the home currency is much stronger. It buys more Japanese yen than it is this time last year. So for the Taiwan, the similar story has been observed in Taiwan with indices falling. Although inflation has been at its highest since the pandemic, indices have fallen as the currency has weakened against many major currencies, for instance, US dollars. In between 2023 and 2024, inflation has been most pronounced outside of Taipei. Okay, now let's hear from Okabe-san, the HR country leader at Honeywell Japan. Okabe-san will share insights on the challenges HR teams are currently facing and how they are addressing them. Okabe-san, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Kana-san. Yes, so I'm working for a U.S. multinational company in Japan, and then as a HR leader, I'd like to share my insight. So many Japanese people were surprised at this news. As per data of the Japan government, 860,000 people was decreasing only in last year, 2023, because of a low birth rate. And then Japan birth rate is now 1.2%, and especially Tokyo area is 0.9%. In addition to it, we are facing the situation of rapid aging. Aged 65 years old and over are 30% of total population in Japan. This is the data from Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications. The productive population aged between 15 and 64 also decreasing by 290,000 people from the previous year. So what this means, lacking resource. This is a very, very serious situation now. Also, as you may know, the lack of bilingual talent is a key issue in Japan. TOEIC English test score is 27th out of 32 countries. TOEFL is second from bottom in ASEAN countries. So acquiring talent from overseas is essential. I have been working for a US company and a UK company for past 30 years. And from 1995 to 2005, expat package was so common. And we had so much inbound. And then most of the international companies, some percentage of management position were covered by international assignees, so-called expat. However, recently, talking my company in Japan, short-term project assignments such as a project engineer and international local hired are increasing. Actually, they are common. In my current companies, permanent international relocation is, I think, much more. Package is not expat package, but very standard package is immigration support and then one-way ticket and a small lump sum payment. That's all. And if the position is a senior, we add some additional expense for household goods. But majority is a very, very reasonable and small package, which is a cost around 15,000 to 20,000. So that is a current situation. And then I believe it's increasing more and more because that's must in Japan's society. And by the way, my hobby is to go to a hot spring and stay all in Japanese ryokan in Japan. And these days, I have seen many, many young potential talent who comes from all Asian countries. They work at the ryokan as a local employee, and they are very high potential, eager to learn Japanese language and Japanese culture, and they are so aggressive. And most of the people plan next step after the first job. So they are like a young talent when Japan was a high growth country. So I really want to support that their move very much. Okay, that's all from my side.
Thank you, Okabe-san. We appreciate you sharing your experience and your hobby as well. Thank you. Okay, now everyone, we are reached to the end of today's agenda. I'd like to take this time to answer your questions we received. And then speakers, please, if you have any questions to the other speakers, please go ahead and ask some questions.
So Douglas-san, I have one question.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, your session was very, very interesting. And then one thing you mentioned about gold card, but it does not familiar to me. Is that the gold card, credit card, or what is a gold card?
No, it's not a credit card. It sounds like a credit card, but yeah, it's actually like basically a residency card. So it'd be like an ID card for foreigners. And so it's kind of we call it employment gold card. So technically it's actually a 3-in-1 card. So it would include your visa, your work permit, and your health insurance. And so it's all in one card, which is something kind of new to put all those things together. But yes, it's just basically a residency card.
Thank you. It's interesting very much. Thank you very much.
So now it's been a great time, but unfortunately we are approaching to the end of today's session. So for those of you who are not yet ATMA members, we would love for you to consider joining our community now. A big thank you to our special guest speakers for their contributions to this webinar. Thank you so much, everyone. We truly appreciate your support. We look forward to seeing you all in near future, but goodbye for now. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.